Good evening, everyone. This is Veer Maheshwar Charitable Trust Latur MS India organizing daily international webinar series. In this series, speakers are joining from India and abroad, delivering their speeches as per their expertise. And this series is starting from last 5 years. The topics related to education, law, health, social issues, environmental, all topics are discussed here. And today we have invited Dr. Bhawna Bhardwaj ma'am, who is assistant professor at Nirma University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. And the topic is Surrogacy, a new pathway to parenthood. I welcome you, ma'am, from my organization and from all the participants. Today's speaker is passionate legal educator with over 6 years of experience in teaching and research. She specialized in constitutional law, family law, intellectual property rights, and she strives to foster critical thinking and practical legal skills among students. The activities she engaged in legal research, publication, and academic discussions open to the collaborations in legal education, research, and policy development. She have invited from so many various organizations to deliver the topic, and she also accepted our invitation today. The topic is surrogacy, a new pathway to parenthood. I welcome you, ma'am, again, and I request you can start your speech now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such a lovely introduction. So, is my screen visible to you?
No, madam.
Now, is it visible?
Yes, it's visible, but you can remove that picture. Okay. Yes.
Is it fine now?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
Okay. So, a very good morning to good evening to one and all present here. So, in the next upcoming 30 or 45 minutes, we will be discussing over the topic of the surrogacy, which is a very welcoming topic in this digital era and in this era. And this will be considered to be as a modern pathway towards the parenthood. So this surrogacy is not related to the provision of the law. It is something which is related to the medicine. It is something which is related to the biological concepts, or it is something which are connected to the ethical concerns within the time frame of the India. And not even if in India, it is also connected throughout the world, because it is related to the health and somehow it is connected to the human rights, as our law provides a right to reproduce as a fundamental right, and similarly universal of declaration of human rights also mention it's a human and a universal right to be reproduced as a human. So somehow surrogacy is related to worldwide and to each and every individual being a human here. So in this particular discussion, you will be able to get like what is surrogacy, what are the different types of surrogacy, then what is the medical process in order to have the surrogacy done, and why there is a need of a surrogacy, and what is the legal landscape specifically in India with connection and with a comparative angle of the other countries as well. And if in case we are talking about the ethical debates, because recently there are many channels and many platforms which are focusing on the debates whether we should be pursuing the same or not, so we will be having a glance of the same. Then about the emotional and the psychological dimension, and how we are going to balance and how we can say that what will be the future of the surrogacy. So in this particular discussion we will be covering all this. We will try to cover all the aspects of the surrogacy. So the first question arises like, what is surrogacy? So the surrogacy is basically an arrangement in which a woman will be carrying a child and deliver a child for another individual or a couple. So basically, the woman is going to have the womb for the other individual or for the other couple. And the woman who is having that child is known to be a surrogate mother. And the person who are going to be the parents of that surrogate child, they are going to be considered as intended parents, or it can be intended parent. So now, like, why there is a need of surrogacy, like why we are talking about surrogacy in these days. So because we do have that as a human right to reproduce, and we also, like, being Indian and being the human, we also somehow connected to our emotions as well, and we want to continue with our legacies. So we need the generation to generation to be passed on from one generation to another generation. So but in certain circumstances, just like in the case of infertility in the women or infertility in the men also, this makes a complex situation that the man is, or the women or the couple is not able to have a child. So what is possible in that scenario? Similarly, it can be a possibility that there is an absence of uterine, or there can be a recurrent loss, or there can be a medical risk. Or medical risk means here that there can be a severe heart disease, there is a something pregnancy complication, and that is of such nature that the women is not able to conceive the child, and it can be lead towards a life threatening situation. So second circumstances will be the medical risk, which is not allowing a woman to become a mother or to become a parent. Number third circumstances, it could be that there can be some genetic syndromes, and there can be some genetic or some medical issues which is related to the health of the women. So the women is not able to reproduce in that circumstances. So like the very famous case here, it is related to the cancer survivors. So it is very difficult for the cancer survivor patients to reproduce and to conceive a baby and deliver a baby. Similarly, there can be the last circumstances where, like, if we are talking about, if you see the last 2 years, you can see that there is a circumstances where the individual is performing the marriage. A female is marrying herself, and similarly, there are somehow the scenario has been changed from a couple from female and men to same-sex couples as well. So in that circumstances also, it will be very difficult if the same-sex couple is a male couple. So how you are going to be conceive, and how you are going to be, challenge the biological reproduction process here. Similarly, in case if you are talking about, if you want to become a parent, but you are not, do you just not want to become the, spouse of someone, so you just want to be the parent by choice, single parent by choice. So in that circumstances, what can be the scenario, and how you are going to approach to get the reproduction done? So these are certain circumstances where all these circumstances is leading towards a single destination, that is the reproduction. But reproduction in these scenarios is not possible, so we do have the availability of surrogacy. So surrogacy, beforehand of that surrogacy, like we do know about that, we do have the IVF facilities. So through IVF facilities, we can have the surrogacy process done. So basically, surrogacy will lead and will give your new parenthood, or you can say that will provide a chance to become a parent for those persons or those people who are not able to conceive naturally. So in these circumstances, we can say that the surrogacy is required for the purpose of becoming a parent for the persons who are not able to conceive and who are not able to become a parent. Now, if we talk about the quadrants of surrogacy, so there are 4 quadrants of surrogacies. So, before going directly into the quadrants, there are certain terms to be needs which needs to be understand, just like gestational, traditional, commercial, and altruistic. So, there is one basically if we are going to differentiate or divide the types of the surrogacy, so you will find mainly two types of surrogacy. The first is a traditional surrogacy, which is known to be as genetic surrogacy. The second would be your gestational surrogacy. So what is traditional surrogacy here? So the traditional surrogacy is known is a circumstances where the surrogate uses, or you can say the surrogate mother uses her own egg in order to fertilize, and it can be done via IVF, and that will be fertilizing with the sperm from the intended parent or intended father or a donor. So the in this scenario we can say she will be the biological or the genetic mother of the child because she is using her egg in order to fertilize the sperm of the donor itself or by the you can say the intended parent or intended father. So in that circumstances there will be a situation where there will be there will be an emotional connect towards the child by from the side of that surrogate mother. So if we talk about this traditional surrogacy, that is what which was being happened in the past years as well. And coming to the second type of surrogacy, which is gestational surrogacy. So in this gestational surrogacy, what what happened? So in that circumstances, the embryo is going to be created, and that embryo will be created while using IVF, and that embryo will be having the sperm and the egg, both of the things from the side of the intended parents or intended donor. So basically, there will be no biological connection of the surrogate mother towards the child. So in that circumstances, there is no genetic link. She will only going to be carrying the pregnancy. So these are two types of surrogacy. One is where there will be a biological connection by the surrogate mother towards the child. Number secondly, gestational, jahan par there will be no biological connection because both the eggs and the sperms will be from the side of the donor. So, in connection with of these two types of surrogacy, there is a further, classification of that surrogacy. So, it can be a gestational surrogacy along with the part of the commercialization, and it can be a case of a gestational surrogacy along with the part of altruistic surrogacy. And similarly, with the case of traditional as well, the traditional can be combined with commercial and traditional can be combined with altruistic. So, what is that traditional and commercial? So, by the terms of commercial, we can be identified that there will be something which is going to be paid, and the surrogate will be getting the fee basically, and which is beyond expenses of that women regarding that medical or you can say post delivery expenses. So basically, it will be that you are paying just to deliver a baby. So you are getting paid as a job because you are doing the job to deliver and conceive a baby. So in that circumstances, it is very like high probability that it is going to be misused. So this traditional and commercial types of surrogacy, this is rarely accepted and it is heavily restricted in worldwide scenario because it is leading towards the complex legal and emotional risk because it will be connected as a biological mother from the side of that surrogacy and commercialization, as there is no as such regulation to be regulate those transactions and those number of scenarios that how we are going to manage that commercialization of that particular surrogacy transaction. And if we case in case we talk about the gestational and commercial surrogacy, so here there will be an embryo and there will be no biological connection, but a surrogacy or you can say the process is going to be paid or the job is going to be paid. So that will be a gestational and commercial surrogacy. While talking about the traditional and altruistic surrogacy, so for the traditional and altruistic surrogacy, this method is also like altruistic here. It is means that the expenses will be only covering or the fee will be only covering the medical expenses, or that medical expenses will be covering the part of the during the pregnancy after the pregnancy and the medical insurance of that particular surrogate mother. So that is traditional, that surrogate will be having own eggs along with the medical expenses she is going to be paid from the side of the intended parents. And the up next will be your gestational and altruistic, where there will be no genetic link towards the surrogate mother, but you will be getting your medical expenses from the side of the intended parent. So these are the four quadrants of surrogacy. And out of that quadrants of surrogacy, the gestational and altruistic surrogacy is being accepted by legal Indian standards. So prior to 2021, we were not having any law, any codification, or any guideline respected to the surrogacy. In 2021 December, we received a law which is known to be a Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021, which is providing a legal, or you can say validity towards the gestational and allosteric surrogacy. So we do follow gestational and allosteric surrogacy out of these four quadrants of surrogacy. So in so in Re Baby Manji case, it is a case of a Supreme Court USA, basically. And in this case, what happened that there was one surrogate mother known to be as Mary Beth Whitehead, and that surrogate mother was, artificially inseminated with the intended father's sperm in order to provide the child. So in that circumstances, we can see that there was traditional surrogacy was done, and at the after the delivery of the child, she refused to hand over the baby, and in that circumstances, it arises the question of the intended parent who was waiting for the child to be delivered after the birth. So in that circumstances, the question arises like the emotional connection which was connected from a surrogate mother to this surrogate child, so whether that will be prevailing over the contract which was existed between this surrogate mother and the intended parent regarding the delivery of the child. So in that circumstances, the court ruled that the surrogacy contract was invalid as it is against the public policy. And also in that circumstances, that this has been provided the custody to the stones, and based on the best child interest, as it has been given the paramount interest to the child only. So in that circumstances, it was given it was given to the the women who is going to be considered as a surrogate mother, but the biological mother as well. And somehow certain rights has been given to the father to be considered to be as a part of a visiting rights to the child. So that was the first case which arise the situation relating to the provision to be made regarding the surrogacy. Similarly, if we are going to see the California Supreme Court case that is of a 1993, in that case also, that was a case of a gestational surrogacy. So again, there was one woman who was with Anna Johnson, which was booked for a surrogacy, and she was having the sperm and the egg from the side of the intended parent. So that was the gestational arrangement. There was no connection of genetic to the child. And in this it's the circumstances also that the question arises whether the genetic mother will be considered to be as a natural mother or not. So in that circumstances, it was mentioned that okay, that's fine, that the contract can be considered, and this is the matter where we need to be focused towards the laws to be made. So you can see here that this is not a matter which is related to the India, it is also related to the worldwide scenario. Now coming to the part of the part of the Bollywood, or you can say the public conversation, what we have seen in cinema, whether that cinema was aware of such facts like this is the current issue and that has to be, provided as an entertainment or as a part of a viewers. So we do have a multiple number of movies and dramas which is completely based on the provision of surrogacy. So if I talk about the first movie which was enacted and which was represented the part of your surrogacy, that was the Dusri Dulhan. So that Dusri Dulhan is a movie which was created in the year of 1983. So, in this movie, if you give a reference to it, so there was one actress, Sharmila Tagore, and along with the actor Victor Banerjee was there. So they were playing a couple role here, and after like the wife, the Sharmila Tagore here was not able to conceive. So they asked another woman, another young woman, which was played by which role was played by the Shabana Azmi to become the surrogate. So this particular story highlights an older cinematic theme which provide the cultural gapping decades before the legislation was made towards towards the scenario of the existing situation. So in that movie also, yeah, that talks about that there is such circumstances arising worldwide, because that was the first movie made in India. Then secondly, if I talk about the Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, that was a movie in 2001, and in which this Salman Khan was casted as a couple with the Rani Mukherjee, but the Rani Mukherjee, because of some miscarriage, she was not able to conceive later on because of the life-threatening situation, or you can say due to the medical risk. So they asked the Preeti Zinta to become the surrogate mother. And if you have watched that particular movie, you can remember that surrogacy connected towards the child and refused to give the baby to the Salman Khan's and Rani Mukherjee. So that was the situation which is reflecting towards that. Okay, now for the traditional surrogacy, this can become the issue while delivering the baby, or while handing over the baby to the other persons. Similarly, the another aspect or angle here will be the movie of a Filhal. This is again 2002 movie, and here like Tabu and Sushmita Sen played the best friend role, and here Tabu's character was not able to conceive, so her best friend offered to be the surrogate mother. So this is something which is related to the more nuanced, or you can say emotionally grounded portray that how surrogacy can even strain the closest relationship existed within the society. Then the recent movie which talks about here, it is a Mimi. So in that Mimi, Kriti Senon was casted along with the Pankaj Tripathi. So here you can see the commercialization of surrogacy. So Mimi, because of that Kriti, because of that poverty. So she was a small town dancer, and she became the surrogate mother for a foreign couple. So this is something which is reflecting towards that. The national legal fallout when the intended parents back out in order to execute a contract which was existed earlier. So that is also a good film to the reference of the commercial surrogacy and its human cost discussion, because that will be a very pathetic situation when you have become the surrogate mother to the another couple or another person, but the couple intended now if we are going to see another scenario, we do have multiple movies more like Vicky Donor, Good News. Both of the movies basically they are not related to surrogacy, but this is something which is a broader angle of surrogacy, which are talking about that the assisted reproductive technology where we can have the IVF with the help of the donors, with the help of the other exchange of the sperms and the donors within the embryo implantation. So in these circumstances, we can say that these films are useful hooks, and they actually know a lawful or a legal angle to be decided on by the parliament, and they do not reflect that how gestational surrogacy or Indian surrogacy law actually work today, but they have described that this is a need to be created within the Indian legal system. So if in case we can see that now next towards the part of that how we are going to have the medical process to be done for the surrogacy, or what is the medical steps to be follow for surrogacy to be done. Okay, for surrogacy part, so there are certain standard to be matched with, because we do have now the law existed for surrogacy, and they have mentioned it that if there is no possibility, then only it can be possible. If there is a life threatening, then only it can be possible, and that has to be certified from the side of the district board and by the law. And it has been ordered, or it has been advised to have like a state, a national, or a district level boards, where they are will be setting up the clinics, and those clinics are going to decide the fertility ratio and the incompatibility of that women in order to conceive, or a men to order to conceive, then only the surrogacy can be possible. So for that matter also the screening is required, then the legal contracts, what are the terminology and how they are going to cover the compensation, who will be having the parental rights, then medical expenses, then medical decision making in case of the contingency, then what will be the scenario, what can be the consequences, those all will be covered in the legal contract. Then afterwards the fertilization part, the embryo transfer, the delivery, then the post birth legal transfer, all this will be a part of your medical process, which will be a step by step to be done. And if the district board has been certified you to be competent as to be a surrogate parent or a surrogate mother, then only it will be possible to become a surrogate, to have the surrogacy done in Indian scenario in today's time. Now the Indian legal evolution. So, if I talk about the Indian legal evolution, so the first case arises in India. That was a case of a baby Manji Yamada. That is a case of 2008 year. So, what happened in this case was, if you remember, or if you have read certain articles or certain news, so you will be find that there is one district in Gujarat known to be as Anand. That Anand is famous, was famous for the surrogacy thing. Similarly, there is one place in Rajasthan which was completely famous for that surrogacy part, that foreign people are were coming to India, and they asking the women's in Anand as well as in Rajasthan to rent the womb for the purpose of conceiving and to become the child of their sperms and eggs. So that was the earlier scenario, and during that scenario only this baby Maji Yamada case was existed. So what happened in this case was, like they came to India and they asked one woman to become the surrogate, and afterwards they were fighting for the purpose of divorce. So after conceiving or after getting the surrogacy process to be done, they they filed the papers for the purpose of your getting divorce. Now the question arises that during the mid process of surrogacy, if the someone is filing the divorce paper, so in that circumstances, who is going to be considerate of that particular child? Like what will be the consideration of the particular child? So the Japanese father sought custody of child, but here Indian law, at that during particular time they were not allowing. They were not all. Excuse me. Okay, so sorry for that interruption.
Madam, we are not seeing your screen. You can click to PPT. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so we were discussing about the baby Manchi case. So here they filed the papers in between of that surrogacy process, and they got separated. And the Japanese father, only the father, was entitled, and they were asking. He was asking to get the delivery of the baby to hand over the baby. But during that period of time, Indian law was not what was not allowing a single man, in order to adopt a child, or because the girl was born a girl was born out of that surrogacy, so a girl cannot be hand over to a single man. That was the rule, and that is not being allowed here in India. So in that circumstances, that was the very first case where the court, even not even ruling about the parentage itself, even the court directed authorities to issue the child a passport and exit visa. And this case, basically, you can say it is credited, and it is credited even with triggering the situation to put about the making of a law on the surrogacy, because multiple cases were there which was not even reporting to the court, and which was leading towards the health deterioration of the women itself. So that was the first case. Then if we talk about the another case, which is a case of a Arun Mutwel versus Union of India. That is a very recent case of 2024 of Supreme Court. So here this case also, that the Supreme Court talks about the surrogacy compensation. So because we do have a law now in 2021 which is completely banning the surrogacy as in case of a commercialization. So here it mentioned that we will not be deciding the compensation amount. The bench suggested that there should be an indirect method of compensation, and that should be done via designated government authority rather than the intended couple who is paying the surrogate directly. So there should be one channel who will be taking care of all such mechanism of compensation to be paid in a form of a medical expenses, or in the form of the insurance of that woman, rather than the people who is having the surrogacy process. They should not be deciding that those certain factors. Now if we are going to see the global landscape and the global scenario regarding the surrogacy, so if you see United States, so for United States it varies from state to state within there also. And this is a state where the commercial surrogacy is being allowed. Similarly, if I talk about UK, European Union, so in UK there is a only concept of altruistic surrogacy only, and there is a complete ban on the commercialization of surrogacy. And if in case of the European Union, like France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, they have completely barred the concept of surrogacy. So they said that no, not even commercialization, not even non-commercialization, both are banned in that European Union. Similarly, we do have a multiple case laws here in this angle, like the case of a Jan Bals versus Anand municipality. So here also that twins was born in the Gujarat Anand only, and German couple that they divorced. So in that circumstances, the question arises regarding the parentage of that particular child. The Supreme Court existed. The Supreme Court held over this case to the the custody of the child to the grandmother. So that happened in that case also. Then the UK High Court case, then the Padisio versus Campelli versus Italy case. So this cases basically shows that there are certain concerns regarding the parenthood and regarding the parentage of that particular child, because there can be circumstances where the people during the process will be relating to might dies, might lead towards the separation. So what should be the circumstances and what should be the regulatory provision in that scenarios? So if in case if I talk about that like worldwide scenario, so yes, surrogacy laws changes from country to country, from state to state. And if I talk about like certain countries, so we can say there are an existence of three forms of surrogacy worldwide. The first is commercialization, the countries which allow commercialization of surrogacy. The second will be the division of the countries which only permits non-commercialization of surrogacy, and in the third category of the countries, there is not allowing the concept of surrogacy. There is no acceptance of the surrogacy. So these scenarios have been existing right now in the world. Then in case of an ethical balance we are going to create for the surrogacy. So if I argue in the favor of surrogacy, so yes, we do have the UDHR, and as per to UDHR, we can have a right to decide to become a pregnant or not, and for pregnancy for someone else or not. So it will be a my body my rule. And similarly, second point, it can be like it will be providing an opportunity to become a parent for those person who are unable to. And thirdly, it will be providing the financial mobility in the terms of commercialization. And fourth, it will be providing a building facility of a family for the LGBTQ couples as well. Because in Indian law, what we do have in 2021, we do not recognize LGBTQ as a community here and as a gender here, and we are not allowing LGBTQ community to become a surrogate, to have a child under the surrogacy concept. But in the on the other hand, if I talk about, so if we are going to allow the commercialization of surrogacy, it will be going to risk the health of that particular women, because in the terms of, in order to get the money out of that surrogacy or that employment out of that surrogacy, it is going to be health, affect the surrogacy health, and it also lead to some psychological impact as well, and it will be exploitation risk as well, and there will be commodification of reproduction as well. So that will be, we will be dealing the children as a transaction, we will be dealing a mother as a transaction, so that will be a commodification risk. So in that circumstances, we can say there are certain rules, provisions which is leading towards yes, we can have the surrogacy, but there are certain negative points as well. So in that manner, if we see the experts report, so they agree that stroke regulation is required, informed consent is required, fair compensation to be provided, or you can say psychological support should be provided to all the parties. And if we are talking about the ethical surrogacy, so we are talking about that surrogacy should be there, but it should be done within the frameworks of the ethics. But how we are going to have that ethics thing to be maintained if we are providing the financial, legal, and emotional, all the aspect in that one scenario only, and if we are making certain regulation, and those regulation is covering both the all the points, financial, legal, and emotional aspects only, then it will be only feasible in order to have the surrogacy to be performed in an ethical manner. And along with that, that ethical surrogacy is just not going to be inherited by the medical traits itself. It has to be done from the regulation part, from where, like, if in case someone is coming from the foreign territory and they are asking the Indian people to become the surrogate, so in that circumstances, what will be the jurisdiction, so, and what will be the human rights, like what will be are going to deal in that scenario. So all those jurisprudence angle has to be considerate. Then human rights has to be managed here, like not only towards a child, not only towards that intended parents, but also we should consider the scenario of the surrogate mother as well. And also we should be providing a medical facility to be at a very notch level, so that it will going to be provided a health safety towards that women as well. So in this, if we are going to manage all these angles or all these glances of glances of surrogacy, then it is going to be the best ethical surrogacy what we can have in future. So yes, surrogacy should be allowed, surrogacy should be there, but it has to be regulated with the certain swift, you can say, legal provisions, and it has to be managed from the root level to the highest level. And this is going to have, with the help of international, if we are going to have international standardization, if we are going to describe about the surrogate rights, if we are going to have the technological advancement of the same, and if we are going to have more and more, brainstorming towards the part of like what should be there and what should not be there, and we are making the laws on the same. If we want to shape the future of our family in that scenario, then it will be feasible and it will be very availability of the laws. So that will be having a very healthy impact on the surrogate mother and all the parties who are intended and who are involved in the surrogacy process. So that will lead toward a new road, and which is leading towards the same destination. At the end, I just want to conclude with a part of that thing, that surrogacy has fundamentally challenged our legal, ethical, and social definitions of family, and it is going to provide a vital path to parenthood, but it does not exist a generation ago. So that's why it is demanding a thoughtfulness, a rigorous regulation to protect the parents, the surrogates, and the children born out of the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhawna madam. It's a very important topic, and you have presented very scientifically the need of that, why it is implemented, and what are its legal aspects of it. At the same time, how the films are based on the social problem, how it is can be solved, or how it is needed to be considered in the ethical manner. So everything, it was very perfect and useful information, legal information. At the same time, informative information you have given us. I am thankful to you for discussing here on this topic, which is social issue, important topic. Now I request participants to unmute themselves and they can discuss with our speaker.
Do we have any question here?
Yes, few speakers can discuss with this. Yes, Dr. Anand Shukla sir, please.
Yes, sir. Please.
Good evening, Dr. BETKAR sir. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you very much for a wonderful topic. And surrogacy nowadays, it is one of the burning issue. Very recently in Maharashtra, there is the group of doctors were playing with this surrogacy. Playing in the sense, they were using the females from the poor socioeconomical strata for this work. And there was a kind of a scandal was going on. So there is a very thin line in what is legal and what is illegal. So even doctors has to understand what is legal and what is illegal. Of course, if you see, surrogacy is one of the very important thing. You, as you said, gestational is there, traditional is there, and as per the human rights, you'll find reproduction is a right of everyone, but how to reproduce, that is also a very important thing. So mothers, when they are donating their eggs, or they are, a partner in that, so definitely a legal aspects will come. Some may take objection, if suppose usually surrogacy, people, they are from the higher socioeconomical strata, and she may raise question that now part of it is mine. So these are the some questions still, you'll find. I think we are searching for the answers, and the legal aspect has to be done very correct. Of course, with the medical aspects, as a doctor, I can say this is a really wonderful thing, something very interesting thing. In the past also, people used to have second wife, and because the first wife was not conceiving, and then or maybe some other things they were having. But nowadays, it is coming under the legal umbrella. So one has to be very careful about this surrogacy. And you have already mentioned Anand and Rajasthan, some places where you'll find The the females were given. Of course, there was no law as such. There was no law as such, and that is why it has been exploited like this. So, recent case, in Maharashtra, I had seen, one means that lady has conceived at least for 6 times, and she has taken a payment and this and that, and so many things. Inquiries are going on nowadays, so it happens. On other side, I know what is the eagerness of the parents, who are not having child. What kind of emotional bondings are there? They want child, and they have to do something, so they are going to this extent of surrogacy. That is another aspect. Now
Yes.
the fetus, when the fetus is developing, that fetus also has some emotions. So what you think, that we are doing mechanical procedure, medical procedure, but what you think, that what will be the, is there any influence of the mother? Is there any influence of the the people who are donating the things? So that is very important and essential to learn, because we have not gone to that extent. And what are the complications associated with the surrogacy, because they are not the natural parents of that child. So what do you think about this? Thank you.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much for a wonderful question. So yes, I totally agree with the part of that thing that features is also something which is related to emotions, which is going to affect the of a women. So in that circumstances, if I talk about that surrogate mothers, that surrogate mother, initially what was happening, that traditional surrogacy was there, and that's the reason that there was an establishment of an emotional connection by a surrogate mother with to the child. So because of that thing, that was very impossible for the purpose of the women to deliver the child after the, or hand over the child after the delivery to the intended parent, that was prohibited. Now they have come to the conclusion and the concept of the gestational surrogacy. So in that gestational surrogacy, there is a scenario that you will be having only the conceiving the child, but with the different egg or different sperm of that particular parent. So that will be not leading towards, that is something psychological impact. So that will be making a psychological impact to the women. So okay, that is not my child, so that is, I'm not connected to that child. So that's why it is something which is more beneficial for the parent in order to accept the child, because they can connect by blood and they can say that this child is our own and that can continue the legacy. So that will be a win-win situation for both the parties. But you are asking about the complication, because again it will be a 9-month process for a surrogate mother to be continue and to be embrace that pregnancy, even if through IVF or any technology. So yes, there will be certain complication, and there will be some, again, irrespective whether that is a traditional or gestational surrogacy, there will be something emotional connection towards attached to the child. So that is still pending in open discussion, and that is still something which is subjective in nature. So that is being considered as a part of a, like, okay, let's see how it is going to be possible and how it is going to be molded in the future, near future.
Because the pregnancy is so precious for a woman, and when
Yes.
she's having the fetus in her womb, I think her feelings are very much attached to that child fetus, and then she has to hand over, she's having feeling that she has to hand over this child to the other parents. So I think there must be some psychological impacts, influences must be there. We have to learn about this.
So
So it is
that's
a topic of research, what I feel, right?
correct.
So we can work out with this kind of topic, and no doubt, surrogacy. The who will go for this? The people who can afford, if the commercial aspects we are talking about. So only the people who are from the good socio-economical strata, then they only can go for this. So again, it will be a concern with the humanity, and health is a fundamental right of the human being. So when we are saying this, of course, and reproduction is also fundamental right. So how it will be possible, that is one thing. What I feel, in organ donation programs, we are not knowing the whose organ is this, and where this organ is going and to whom it is going to get fitted. No one knows throughout the process, and there is no commercial give and take. So what I feel, if we can go with this kind of technique, the things will become little easier, and there should be no business. Some woman, it is easy money. Instead of working hard in a field, they that female has she conceived 6 times consecutively. So this is also very what we can say, legally and humanitarian ground also very wrong. Ethical ground, it is very wrong. So one has to be very clear about this
Yes,
aspect,
sir. Sir,
and
for your
especially the
I'm so sorry to interrupt you in middle, but the thing is here, like what we do have a regulation right now, and as per to the regulation, a surrogate mother cannot be anyone. A surrogate mother, there are certain conditions to be mentioned that who can become a surrogate mother. So it is clearly mentioned that a surrogate mother can be only a mother who has her own child. If the person and the woman is having no her own child, then there is no requirement to, and there the women cannot become the surrogate mother. And secondly, in case you are asking for the references like for the heavier compensation in terms of the medical expenses, so that has to be also kept in mind while drafting and making that legislation. And for the sake of the same thing, it has been clearly stated that the surrogate mother can only be in a relationship. So a near relationship or a closer relationship of the intended couple, then only she can be become the surrogate mother. So that a stranger cannot become a surrogate mother in that scenario. Because what were the consequences faces by the intended parents, that the women was not ready in order to deliver the or hand over the child. So that was kept in mind, and that's why the closer relationship and the woman who is having a child, that was entitled to become a surrogate mother, otherwise not. And also one more, like your part you were saying about like multiple times she can become the surrogate mother, so that was also kept in mind. Only once women is allowed to become a surrogate mother, not more than once. That has to be mentioned.
So that is legal thing, but from a lady from the tribal area, I don't know what happened about that case, and it was there for 3 to 4 days in the newspaper, and definitely something has gone wrong over there. So I think we have to be a very strong. We should have a strong legislation which has not yet developed. What I feel, it can be. Yeah, it can be, what we had to improvise it. Amendment is required. So thank you very much, ma'am, for wonderful discussion and wonderful inputs. Thank you very much. And I think it is a very new topic for this dais, and number of people must be having questions. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Betkar, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Doctor Sir. The subject was half of your part, means you are related to medical field. So I definitely expecting some discussion from you. And you also shared one example of the tribal area. We also get more information through your discussion. Thank you, Doctor Sir. Now we are waiting for Doctor श्री जयवीर सिंह जी. आप हिंदी में बोल सकते हैं. मैडम गुजरात की है, हिंदी चल जाएगा.
जी सभी को नमस्कार. नमस्ते मैडम.
नमस्ते.
मैडम आपका विषय बहुत ही अच्छा रहा. ये इस आज के आधुनिकता की जरूरत भी है कि जो महिला स्वास्थ्य के लिए समस्या हैं उसके लिए बहुत ही अच्छा है, लेकिन इसका सदुपयोग और अनुपयोग दोनों ही होने वाले हैं आने वाले समय में. मेरा ऐसा मानना है. मेरा ये सवाल है मैडम कि भारत में अभी कानून इसकी इजाजत नहीं देता. क्या कोई भारतीय महिला सरोगेसी के रूप में विदेश में जाके इस प्रक्रिया को कर सकती है, और क्या कोई विदेशी महिलाएं भारत में आके इस प्रक्रिया को पूरा कर सकती है क्या?
जी सर. ओके, सो थैंक यू सर फॉर योर क्वेश्चन. अगर मैं आपके क्वेश्चन के बारे में बात करूं कि इंडिया में ये लॉ अलाउ नहीं करता या अलाउड नहीं करता, तो इंडिया में भारत में अभी सरोगेसी अलाउड है. लेकिन सरोगेसी सिर्फ जो कि कमर्शियल नहीं है, जहां पर आपको ये ट्रांजैक्शन ऑफ मनी नहीं करना है, वो आपको अलाउड है. अगर आप वो उन्हीं के लिमिट में जो उन्होंने रूल्स बनाए उसी के दायरे के अंदर आप करेंगे, तो सरोगेसी इज अलाउड इन इंडिया from or you can say since 2021 December. और मिसयूज की बात अगर हम करें तो मिसयूज पहले ज्यादा होता था, बट क्योंकि हमारे पास कुछ लॉ ही नहीं था, बट नाउ वी हैव द लॉज एंड रेगुलेशन, तो उस सर्कमस्टांसिस में वी कैन नाउ curtail the misuse of the same. एंड सेकेंड टू योर क्वेश्चन विच इज कि अगर कोई फॉरेन में कंट्री में जाकर इंडियन सिटीजन करेगा तो वेदर वो यहाँ पर अलाउड होगा, कंसीडर होगा या नहीं. तो सर लॉ हमेशा जुरिस्डिक्शन का होता है कि कौन से एरिया में आपने किया है, तो दैट विल बी द मेन कंसर्न. अगर आपने वो चीज ऐसी स्टेट या ऐसी कंट्री में जाके की है जहां पर अलाउड है, तो इंडिया में वहां इंडियन लॉ को और इंडियन कोर्ट्स को वहां पर कोई भी आपत्ति और कोई भी ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं होगा. सो दैट इज बीइंग अलाउड. लेकिन अगर इनकेस कोई फॉरेन कंट्री से विमेन आके इंडिया में यहाँ पे सरोगेसी करना चाहती है, तो उसको जो इंडिया में लागू है लॉज रिगार्डिंग सरोगेसी, उसी को ही ध्यान में रखते हुए सरोगेसी का प्रोसेस करना पड़ेगा. जैसे हमारे पास एग्जाम्पल है अभी फेमस सेलिब्रिटीज जो है, अगर हम शाहरुख खान की बात करें तो उनका जो थर्ड चाइल्ड है वो सरोगेसी के थ्रू ही हुआ है. पर लेकिन वो सरोगेसी उस टाइम पीरियड पे हमारे पास कोई सरोगेसी लॉ नहीं था, तो वो आपका लीगल चाइल्ड हो गया. लेकिन अगर इनकेस हम बात करें प्रियंका चोपड़ा अब फॉरेन कंट्री में है और उनका कमर्शियल सरोगेसी था और उन्होंने फॉरेन लैंड पे किया, तो उनके ऊपर हमारा इंडियन का लॉ एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. तो हमारा लॉ की एप्लीकेबिलिटी डिपेंड करती है कि आपका जुरिस्डिक्शन कहाँ था, कहाँ पर आपने वो एक्ट किया. अगर वो विद इन इंडिया की स्टेट के लिमिट्स में है तो आपको उसी लिमिट्स के हिसाब से, उसी रूल्स रेगुलेशन के हिसाब से ही वहां पर डील किया जाएगा. आई होप मैंने आपके क्वेश्चन का आंसर दिया.
जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत अच्छी जानकारी साझा की मैडम. आपका एक बार फिर आपका तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं मैडम.
ओके, थैंक यू सो मच सर.
थैंक यू जयवीर सिंह जी. भारत में अगर कोई सरोगेसी करना चाहते विदेश महिला तो क्या रूल हो सकते हैं, या अपने भारत की महिला बाहर देश में जाके कर सकती है तो क्या रूल सकते हैं, ये हमारे दिमाग में क्वेश्चन आया था, आपने पूछा है. बहुत सारा धन्यवाद जयवीर सिंह जी आपको भी. और जो आनंद गांव का उल्लेख किया है मैडम ने, वो आनंद गांव में मैं एक ट्रेनिंग के लिए 8-10 दिन था. तो वहाँ की सभी जो गांव है वो बहुत एजुकेटेड है और वहाँ के सभी यंगर्स है वो फॉरेन में पढ़ते हैं और वहाँ पूरे गांव में पूरे ओल्डर्स है, माता पिता ही रहते हैं, ऐसे वो गांव की ख्याति है. तो ये याद आया. धन्यवाद मैडम, ये आपका टॉपिक बहुत ही अच्छा इंफॉर्मेटिव रहा. भविष्य में भी आप इस लीगल की कोई अगर लीगल टॉपिक है तो यहाँ शेयर कर सकते हैं. हमारे सभी जो सहभागी है उनकी तरफ से और हमारी ऑर्गेनाइज तरफ से आपको धन्यवाद देते हैं. लीगल हमें और कोई जानकारी है तो आप कभी भी, आपका स्वागत है. धन्यवाद मैडम, धन्यवाद डॉक्टर सर, धन्यवाद जयवीर सिंह जी, धन्यवाद प्रीति कुमारी मैडम जो यहाँ उपस्थित है, शंकर बसप्पा और जो उपस्थित रह चुके हैं उनका भी बहुत बहुत आभार.
थैंक यू सो मच सर, थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू एवरीवन.